Hello and welcome to the Just for Fun podcast. This episode is a solo episode that I'm putting together, and I would like to read you a book that I wrote a while ago. Well, not really much of a book, a chapter out of a book that I tried to put together myself. And I'd like to share with you the 6 pages I managed to put together. For background, well, let me just start by telling you a story. A while ago, I wanted to write a book. I still do, but that's been kind of put aside for right now. I'll eventually get back to that, but now this book I mainly got the idea because at the time, I was seeing my peers writing stuff, and I wanted to write something too. Something more interesting, something really interesting. I wanted to write an interesting story with a beginning, middle, and end. And what I ended up putting together was weird. So I'd like to share with you that story, and that's really what this episode of the podcast is about, just sharing a story with you. Let's go through this. A cluttered, rough wooden terrain. Multiple footsteps pace quickly in the distance. Lights glow as if to signify, "Hey, we're here!" But the question is, who's here? A redhead wearing blue from head to toe is trying to outrun the light that is approaching closer and closer. His face is pale. His white milk. His eyesight is poor because he needs glasses to see where he's going. Edwin Wright is this redhead's name. But what's more important is the woman his hand is connected to. A woman with dark skin and a beautiful long black hair, who's dressed entirely in pink from head to toe, sweating profusely. Voices are heard in the distance, getting gradually closer, along with the heavy footsteps that move directly through the brush that surrounds a vast forest. Edwin is breathing heavily. He can't keep running for too long. Neither of them can. Why are they running? And what's the purpose of running when their fate is sealed? They both don't have time to question their situation. I take up too much time. But you're not contemplating things when you can't come up with any sort of solid plan to get you out of a situation you're in. Now Edwin, he trips on a branch lying below him. When he falls, the woman he's holding onto briefly slides forward. The light in the distance is getting too close for comfort. In a slight panic, adrenaline rush, she's able to lift Ed up. And in the distance, she and Ed see a beach with a small forest view of this beach. Ed and the woman run at full speed to reach the shore that a moment ago felt so far away. There's a feeling of relief, and a thought pops into their heads. We can make it! That thought is quickly interrupted with a light shining in their faces. A mob of angry people has approached, and thinking has allowed too much valuable time to pass. Ed and his female friend are not going to give up. They turn and continue to run, but only briefly. They see a dock, and it's empty, so they run to the end of the dock and jump into the water. Completely submerged in the water, there's a question as to will they survive or not. That's page 1. On to page 2. Take a drink of water. To know what happens next, you should know the beginning. In the early years, society lived together. Woman and man together populated a decent portion of the earth. In the year 2030, overpopulation became a serious issue. The government had to step in and put regulations on the amount of children allowed within a household. The maximum amount of children allowed in a family was 2. In the year 2193, genetically making children without the need of a woman having to give birth was developed in a small town in Rochester, New York. Technology has been a part of human existence for many centuries, but advancements in technology have steadily increased in a ridiculously fast rate. Take video games, for example. The time between 1970 and 2020, games went from something simplistic like Pong to something complex like a detailed open world video game. Scientific technology isn't different in its complex growth. Technology has allowed people to be created by a computer program picking the best genetics that a person can have through the system that can be flawed on rare occasions. But people found it more reliable to trust the machine than themselves. Humans have trusted computers for a long time. Human interaction has faded out, to a large extent due to people's reliance on a machine to tell them what they wanted. The question could be as simple as, what's the weather out like today? Let me repeat that. The question could be as simple as, what's the weather like today? But by that question being asked, the thrill of walking outside and determining, hey, it's cold, or it's too warm, has been taken off the table. People let the machines make the rules, and by 2880, computers realized something that drastically changed the way people lived. A separation that hadn't been seen since the Jim Crow era. Man and woman were separated into separate societies as a way to prevent human reproduction. Men live in a blue town and were raised by other men. Women were set within a pink town and raised by other women. Both towns have a strict dress code. Men wear blue and women wear pink as a way of identifying their gender. These laws, which were created by a machine having complete control over states, that if anyone disobeys, they will face death. Societal pressures reinforce the laws, using a basic human need to belong to force people to accept what society wants from them. Reproduction of people is done by a woman's eggs being mixed with a man's sperm by a computer algorithm finding the best matches. There is a sperm bank in the men's town. Everyone must donate when it's their scheduled time, and the same rules apply to a woman donating their eggs. That's how society is able to be continued. The year is 3020, and my name's Edwin Wright. I don't know where I got my name because I assume a computer generated it. Looking around the town I live in, there isn't much, but everything is blue. We have a mall that's got a convenience store, mattress store, video game store that is a bit odd because when you buy a game, all you get is some code that your phone takes a picture of, and that's on all your devices. I'm not much of a gamer, to be honest, but I love television shows and movies. I think you could consider me a television buff. I watch a variety of shows. I really enjoy reading, as well as there's a library that me and my friends hang out, and it's digital. Okay, there's a library that they hang out at, and it's a digital library, and it displays a book through a television-like screen. People can sit and swipe their fingers through a book, or even have the book read to them by whoever they want to choose as their narrator. My friends are Leif Hillard and James Littlefield. Got a chance to hang out with them once or twice within a week. James has a tan, dark skin, and chill attitude that is always welcome at any occasion. If you were to walk up to James and talk to him, you'd feel like you've known him your whole life. Leif has a long, thick brown hair and a face as clear as paper, and he always has a bit of a constipated look to him. But don't let this look fool you. He won't bite. Other than going to the library, I'm fond of walking through the small park near my house. I sit on the bench sometimes and look out at the water, and sometimes I see a lighthouse in the distance. It looks like a giant candy cane shining a big yellow light onto the ocean, creating a reflection that's truly breathtaking sight to see. Walking back from the park, a crumpled piece of paper slowly drops from a tree directly onto the ground. Lifting it up and uncrumpling it, there's a key. Where does this key go? I look around to see if anyone is there. Nobody. I'm a bit paranoid. Sometimes I think I hear someone follow me around, but there's seldom anybody near me. The paper says Book 122. Back in the library, I'm an avid visitor of the library, but I don't see a purpose in investigating this. I think to myself, save it for later. So I put the piece of paper along with the key in my back pocket. The next morning, as I'm getting laundry ready, I set my clothes from yesterday in a bag. All my clothes are identical. They're all shades of the same blue. Carrying the clothes in a black trash bag that is flimsy because it's not made by any reliable brand. I like cheap. A small hole starts slowly showing from the side of the bag. I notice the hole is forming, so I nervously grip the bag from the bottom. Holding the bag like a dog with a frisbee, only my hands are the teeth. I go to an instant laundromat which covers everyone in the town, meaning it's hard not to see your neighbor sitting at the laundromat awkwardly smiling at you as a brief yet forced smile appears on your face. I find it hard to make idle conversation. I find myself mumbling something that even I don't understand. Putting the clothes in the machine, it only takes 2 minutes for clothes to be washed, dried, and handed to you by the machine. Once it was finished, I found I had to get a new bag because, well, my other one wasn't reliable. Luckily, the laundromat carries its own free disposable bags. Thank goodness. Heading home with the bag, a thought occurs in my head that makes me pick up the pace. Did I leave the stove on? Then I realized something that made me slow down. I don't have a stove. Use a microwave for everything. Entering my small blue house, it is cluttered with magazines that I haven't made time to read. I had a little cough. Okay, let's start again. Entering my small blue house is cluttered with magazines that I haven't made time to read. I keep telling myself, get to it. But time passes and I don't. I don't care. I don't have any pets because I'm allergic to them. All of them. And I'm not into taking care of animals. There's nothing more than the top exterior of the house. I have a car that I use to drive a short distance for my job at a creamery, but 3 miles from my home. I assist in making the ice cream, which is pretty much glorified dishwasher. I clean because that's what I know how to do. In a moment of silence, sitting alone in my chair, I realized that the key was in my back pocket, so I run the bag that I set on the main table. The back pocket is lukewarm as I pull out the undamaged key, which is on the top of a crumpled piece of paper. The paper has faded words that I can rewrite on a notebook paper I carry in my cabinet. I pull out the envelope I usually use for sorting, but I make an exception. I need time to contemplate my next move. If I look into where the key goes, then maybe I'm going further down the rabbit hole than I should, but I also believe in taking risks because that can lead to success. As I'm contemplating, there's a knock at my door. I walk over to see James standing at my doorway. He seems a little uneasy. I ask, "What's wrong?" and he points to a cat outside the door laying still. I ask what's wrong with the cat, and James points to the black box sitting in the corner of the driveway. James asks, "What did you order?" I shrug as if to say, "I don't know." James angrily puts on gloves and picks up the cat that is lifeless. I take the time to look at the package. It's from the creamery I work at, and there's a hole in it. I pour a small bit of the contents onto the ground. It's white chocolate and dark chocolate pieces, and a piece of paper slides out as well. It says, "We appreciate your time with us at the creamery, but we found a replacement for you. We're sincerely sorry, but we're letting you go. Enjoy the chocolates as a parting gift." Picking up the chocolates and putting them back through the hole in the box was easy. And then I threw the box away in a dumpster near the end of my driveway. Feeling bad over what James had to deal with, I went to the local store, which is close to empty, around noon. I got James a sympathy card and some flowers, but I thought chocolates might be a bit much after what just happened. James lives right across from my house, so walking over is hardly a problem at all. Carrying the flowers and the card, I set them at the back doorstep, and I take a moment to sign the card before ringing the doorbell and running away. I guess I pulled a ding-dong ditch, but I was feeling a mixture of guilt and fear, so I thought this method was best. I'm not the best at conversing with someone who is angry at me. Sitting alone in an empty room, I hear my doorbell ring. Going to the door, I take nervous breaths. Opening the door is James. He's not happy, but his face has lightened up a bit. I express my condolences, and James nods. Then he says, "Have a good day." He's forgiven me, but he needs time, and I respect that. Today isn't a great day, but I believe the glass is half full and not half empty. I tried to be optimistic for tomorrow. It's 7:30 a.m. and I'm ready to go. Instead of driving around, I decided to walk. The first place I stopped is a mechanic shop. Knowing nothing about the cars flying was a pointless effort. The second stop was at a local school, which is a dark blue. Knowing a bit about cleaning, I figured I'd be a janitor position available. Unfortunately, no such luck. I walked out of the school feeling like a dope. I thought that would be an easier place to get into. The third place I walk into is a grocery store. This place hands me an application, and I fill it out hoping for the best, but I know the song and dance that goes with applying for a job. Someone tells you that they'll call you, but they might not. Things aren't as simple as I wish they were, but that's how it is. I think I'll call it this day and job from the library. I have an envelope tucked in my front pocket, walk over to the library. That's the end of my book. I sped read, so yeah, that's 6 pages of my book. I'm trying to just do a read through of the book, the little bit I got. I had a tough time figuring out the futuristic world that I wanted to write and stuff like that.